Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Java. Thank you so much for joining me. It is Friday, and this is for October 6th, 2023. Thank you so much. So, we are looking at the MMRI, still high risk, kind of black swan territory, if you will. I did post the numbers, however, they're going to possibly be irrelevant since everybody is looking forward to the jobs report. With our sentiment, talking about the September jobs report may be the last good one before a sharp slowdown. So, with that, I did post the elements of both the 10-year and the dollar relative strength because they pulled back yesterday. And that allowed a little bit of a breather in the market. As we had said yesterday, they were hitting resistance levels, and I did expect them to pull back. So they did. We've got Jeremy Grantham saying no one should invest in the US right now. That's a pretty harsh call, but I can't say that I disagree. So our calendar is basically based on this jobs report and employment, because those are the huge numbers prior to market open in probably little while here. And then we've also got after that Federal Reserve presidents speaking, just in case they can manage the market. And they've kind of spread them out a bit. So we'll see what happens today, whatever stuff they put out. With banks, we've got Bank of America, they're heading for deep trouble. And part of the reason is that they invested heavily in what was supposed to be a very safe asset, which was the United States bond market in the IOUs. Now they've got tremendous unrealized losses because of this. They're struggling. So along with our banks, we've got the Bank of Japan talking about their yield curve. So we've got to watch the Bank of Japan because, unlike the Federal Reserve, who kind of lets us know what's going on so they don't shock the markets, the Bank of Japan likes to stand from across the pond and throw a wrench once in a while, whether they do yield curve control or do something with their rates unexpectedly. And we've seen that hit the market, so we have to kind of look out for this. So, on to trade. Now, we had this story about the volume of world merchandise trade in accordance with the World Trade Organization has taken a serious drop. It was expected to be 1.7%, and it's dropped down to 0.8. So that is a huge sign of recession, not getting enough news here. They're keeping it very quiet. And then here we are just saying the US trade deficit shrank 58.3 billion, the smallest. The truth behind this is because nobody's trading with us. And between what we're doing with the sanctions and the embargoes, the pricing, it's not advantageous with them. So there's a deficit because we're buying as much as they will allow us to, and we're not producing anything to sell. So we've also got this story floated out from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, that world food prices are steady at a 2-year low on cheaper oil seeds. I disagree. I don't see that food prices are steady in the United States. Maybe someone else can weigh in on this in the comments if you see steady food prices, because we do not. So over to energy, watching Germany relaunching mothballed coal plants to save gas because they're facing winter. And I'm very concerned for my European friends here because they're talking about avoiding power shortages this winter. And they've got a serious problem coming in because they are rebuying Russian oil and the price is prohibitive. So watching that going on with Russian oil itself, we've got a true story here, but it was spun very differently in the West. So, yes, they lifted their ban on most diesel exports, but it was not because they were forced. It's because they basically are making much more money on their diesel. They've got enough themselves. They're shipping more abroad. And this is actually how it works. After the European Union banned the Russian fuel imports over it basically being sanctioned, they diverted their Europe-bound exports and they took them instead to Brazil, Turkey, several North and Western African countries, and Gulf states in the Middle East. So a lot of these places, including the Gulf states, have their own major refineries, and then they re-exported the fuel, meaning they resold back to Europe. Other places as well, but it just completely skirted the sanctions, and if nothing else, raised the price and helped Russia even more. So we've got this other story. So what India did basically is they they made some of their physical currency no longer legal to trade in. So they basically made everybody turn back in their 2,000 rupee notes of the crore. So when they did that, that physical currency came back to the cash as bank deposits. So this did two things. Number one, it took away the physical currency that could be used outside of the banking system. And number two, it bolstered their banks, and now they can convert that to the digital. And the reason I bring this up is I expect some form of this probably to happen in the West as well. So, along with our trade wars that we are looking at, we've got Global Link. BRI is Belt and Road Initiative. So, it's on China. And they're talking about developing now in Argentina. So, we know, as we were talking about this before, if you're new here, they're after Argentina because they have tremendous reserves, mostly oil. They've also got gold, precious metals, and larger deposit of lithium, which is necessary for any of the electric vehicles or battery purposes. So we've got China talking about doing a building initiative of significant development. And so how the Belt and Road Initiative works, we've spoken about this before, is they offer free loans to go help with all of this internal development. And then when they raise the interest rate, much like the United States is doing now, they cannot pay the debt. When they cannot pay the debt, then they repatriate whatever the infrastructure is that allows them a foothold in that country. So we've also got the IMF basically realizing that they are missing out on this partnership, if you will. And now they've got a problem with the $43 billion Argentina, basically the loans, because their political shift. So Argentina not coming along with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, or as we call them, the International Mafia Fund, which is an arm of the West, United States as well, having problems. So moving on, we are at war. The West is at war. And if you don't believe me, just look at these stories. So we've got the Dutch defense minister making a case for funding Kiev because she says that it's a cheap way to fight Russia through their territories without us having to formally declare it. This morning we had a United States had to shoot down a Turkish drone approaching troops in Syria. So if you don't realize it, Turkey now has Turkey and Syria both have been kind of changing their alliances in major talks with Russia as well as India. And now they've got attacks going on here, and I'm going to look at more of these things happening. So we need to keep our eyes open. We've got China preparing to make itself immune from inevitable US sanctions. Well, beyond this story, why? Why would they be inevitable? It just says that they know that we're going to sanction them from actions that they plan on taking. So let's keep an eye on that. We've also got Japan speeding purchases of US-made missiles, the Tomahawks, a year in advance. And now they've got Korea not too far and China. So with this, they're feeling a little bit more like they might want a way to kind of defend their territories. So this is a story I wanted to bring up to you because, again, the World Bank is kind of a US arm. Now, the World Bank is seeking to expand its focus beyond poverty reduction and address global challenges such as climate change. So whenever they use this term climate change, as we showed before, it's garbage. We're going to go back to coal or whatever it is that we need to do. So anything funded in the name of climate change is suspect. And so we're just looking to replace our funding and move it as we would like. And that allows that cover. So we've got Yellen, this is a different story, believe it or not, to focus on World Bank and China at global meetings. So as you see all these stories kind of come together, we can piece together what's really going on. She departs Sunday for Morocco and Luxembourg, and saying she may also discuss new limits on Russia's oil revenue. Well, they just kind of prove she has no say in that. So that will be interesting. Okay, so we've got this list of, I love how they put this, organizations in North America. They list the United Nations, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, and they are indeed US run. So I've got a couple of updates. We've got the current administration in the United States has now backtracked, done a full reversal, and wants to build new sections of that border wall because migration is a serious problem and they can't control it as they thought that they would be able to. And there's a lot more behind wanting the migration as well, but I won't cover that here. And then for my final thing I would like to bring up is this article just came out on how CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, will be used for political oppression in your country. And we can expect this moving forward, but just to glaze over this, they're poised to give politicians unprecedented power to track your data, restrict your movements, and control your life. I believe restriction of movement and losing the freedom of speech are top priorities for them. So, with that, I'm going to wish you all a green trading day, just a wonderful day in general. Monday is Columbus Day, but the markets are open, so I will see you then. If you don't mind, give this video a like. And with that, my friends, until I see you again, stay free.